the Genius Biker, and I want to share with you how I turn my stock 114 high flow intake into a performance intake for about $100. Now, if you like to waste a lot of money and buy fancy looking parts, you should probably just skip this video right now, because I'm all about the smartest way to motorcycle. So this right here is the best bang for the buck for your intake for your stock 114. If you got a cam or a big bore kit, then you might need a little bit more flow than this. But if you got a pretty much stock bike, this is gonna flow all the air you need. If you got a California bike, I'm gonna show you a super clean OEM looking way to tie in the breather system with your Evap system. So here was the key component of the performance intake. It's the Screaming Eagle reusable, cleanable, high flow air filter. It's basically a K&M filter. It is made here in the US. I bought this from my local Harley Davidson dealer. I'll throw a link in the description so you can order it online if you don't have a Harley dealer nearby. It's basically just a Harley branded K&M filter. But as you can see, it's way better than the stock paper air filter. Here's the filter for the breather. This thing is like 16, 17 bucks. Bought it on Amazon. I'll throw a link in the description. Here's the hose I used. It's silicone, high temp silicone, so it won't melt. 1/4 inch internal. Used a couple grommets, after drilling the holes in the back plate. Here's the size of those grommets. I bought a whole pack of these. You can probably grab just that size from your local hardware store or something. Here's the Purge tube cap if you got a California bike. You'll also need to pick up a plastic 1/4 inch T. So now I want to take you through how I tied in the stock breather system with the 50 state California Evap system. So if you got a 49 state bike, you're not in California, you don't have an Evap system, then I guess you're just out of luck. But us California guys with these pimped out 50 state bikes are going to have a great idea of how we can A, get rid of the Evap system, save a little weight, but also B, use what's there to tie into our breather system. So here's a little breakdown of what I did. I looked up this diagram. This diagram here shows the full California Evap system for the 50 state bikes. So right up here, you have your fuel tank. So your fuel tank has this hose attached. And what happens is any overflow or fuel vapors travel down this line, down around to this line, all the way down to your Evap canister. So this is your Evap canister. And inside it's a charcoal filter or something. I don't really know what's inside. Never broke one open. There's no real need to. After it goes through this filter, comes back out this hose, up and around, up to this purge valve. This purge valve regulates the flow to your intake. So after it gets released by this purge valve, it loops around, back up under your tank, and comes down here and gets purged into your stock intake. So not only do you have excess head pressure releasing into your intake, but you also have this excess fuel vapor coming in from your Evap system. So we want to eliminate all that. I'll show you what I did was I drilled out those 2 circles on the bottom of my back plate of the stock intake. Be real careful when you're doing it that you don't do this by your really nice car you have in your garage. And basically ran the hose from these breather bolts down to this new hole that I drilled. And then out the back, up and around. And then I joined these with a black plastic T and tied all that in together and connected it to this hose right here. Now you can't just connect it there and forget about it, because one, this hose here, this connection connected originally to your intake. I ordered the stock cap. I have the part number in the description for the video. It's very cheap. I think it was like $1. So you order one of those and you tie these two together right here. Then, like I said, you can't just connect it and be done, because all of your pressure would be going over to this solenoid and it doesn't know what to do with that pressure. So what I did was I kept this part of the hose that looped down and around to here, and I cut it right there, and then I cut this hose right here and joined these two together, thereby bypassing this whole section right here. Now how I did that was, after I cut it, I took this elbow, that little elbow right there, I pulled that off and I put that elbow right here. So that elbow helps connect these two. So you elbow those two together, and then what you basically got is your air, your pressure release coming up, around, down, around, into this hose. Down, around, down here. And then instead of that elbow, because we use that elbow to join those two together, this is where we're going to put our K&N filter. So the K&N filter, I'll leave a link in the description of the video of the one I bought. Now the K&N filter, when it gets black, you can clean it like any other K&N filter. You can just order another one. But the K&N filter, I think, was less than 20 bucks. Again, I'll put a link in the description. Please use the link. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It helps out the channel if you order through the link. So after you got your K&N, you basically have all of your head pressure releasing out down there. So now to eliminate the Evap system, this hose here runs down and around, down through this check valve, down here, down to the Evap canister, and all we're going to do is remove this elbow. So if we remove this elbow right here, then it's going to be able to release all the vapors or any excess out into the atmosphere like the 49 state bikes do. And then you can do away with all this mess right here. All this gets tossed in the bin or save it for later in case you need it. You don't really. Now, where it can get confusing is, how do you know which one of these two hose outlets is the right one? Well, I'll tell you, right here on the side of the Evap canister, go in there with a flashlight, you'll see one says fuel. That will be the one connected to your tank. And one says purge. That's the one connected to the purge valve. So be sure that you vent the correct hose, which would be fuel, vent the fuel. And then the other hose, which would be from the purge that we connected, will go to your K&N filter. So I hope this wasn't too confusing of what I did. If you have questions, go ahead and post in the comments. If you find flaws in this diagram or what I did, or think this isn't going to work, please post up in the comments. I love it when you guys take the time to comment. Again, I'm the genius, but I'm always learning.